Hi, and welcome. I'm Michelle Robinson, your yoga teacher today. For our practice today, we're going to use just a simple prop. This is a yoga blanket, but you can use any kind of blanket. We just want something that's going to be able to give us a little bit of elevation and height to support our practice as we open the hips and prepare the legs and the feet for what we call samastitihi or Tadasana in Sanskrit. And this is merely a posture that is meant to help us physically and energetically understand what it is to simply stand up. So let's begin. Bring yourself down onto your back, keeping your little blanket close by here beside you, and let yourself lie down. As you lie down, you're welcome to just keep the knees bent and the soles of the feet on the floor, taking a few moments here to just get a sense for how our body, in particular the spine, feels from the hips through to the shoulders, across the neck, and also to drop into a mindfulness practice of finding the breath and then, of course, watching it as it travels. So as you lay yourself down, you're welcome to bring your hands onto your body, or to simply just let them lay down on the floor, if possible, with the palms facing the ceiling. I welcome you to close your eyes so that you might tune yourself to your body, landing here in this simple basic posture, and start to identify the movement principles and aspects of your breath. So as you let yourself settle, as you let yourself land, just pay attention to where and how your breath might be happening. Where do you feel it in your body? Are you currently breathing in or breathing out? What kind of depth of breath are you experiencing? Does it feel perhaps tight or restricted in any way, shape, or form in your breath practice? Do you feel stuffy or congested? Or maybe even just mentally distracted, that even just becoming aware of your breath is a bit of a challenge. My hope is that over the course of this little class, you might become more attuned to the breath and the aspects that create a balance, a unification between the breath movement and the body's movement. If your hands were on the floor somewhere beside you, I invite you to return onto your abdomen and just letting the palms rest on the belly, wherever feels comfortable for you. And then wherever you are in your breath cycle, let's exhale. And then watch as your breath comes in, ideally through the nose, and then switches to the out-breath, again through the nose. And back to that in-breath through the nostrils. To again the out-breath through the nostrils. Again, we breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So as you keep your breath going, feel, if you can, with your hands, any relationship between the breath movement and your body movement. Because of the mechanics associated with breathing, there should be somewhat of an expanding, a stretching, or a rising into your hands from your lower rib section and the abdominals. This is the diaphragm's movement that contracts to then bring the air into our lungs and then relaxes on the exhalation and kind of finds itself nestled back up underneath those ribs. So with every passing breath, there's an opportunity to invoke an expansive quality and then a slight bit of contraction. And the ideal nature is that both of these energetics form some kind of balanced practice. So we don't want the breath in to be so full that it doesn't match the exhalation, or of course vice versa. But eventually some kind of steady evenness starts to come into play. And as you continue to pause here, just simply, comfortably reclined, take a couple more moments of rather quiet reflection. Feel with your hands, concentrate with your mind, and see with not your physical eyes, but the cellular eyes, the marriage between your functional breath, respiratory breath, and the movement it invokes. Enjoy one more nice full breath in here. And a complete exhale. And as you're ready, just let your hands slide off your body. Let them return back down to the floor. And then wiggle those toes, move your knees, roll your wrists. And then perhaps as you're ready, lengthen your legs long on the mat. Maybe even take your arms and reach them over your head just to stretch out. Nothing specific, nothing unique, just a nice big body stretch. And then match it to a breath in and feel this expansion, maybe an arching through your low back region. And then a nice contraction at the abdominals to support and move that breath out of your body. And then go ahead and release your arms, rebend your knees, place the soles of the feet back down onto the floor. Let those eyes flutter open if they haven't already. And let's begin just a simple bit of movement practice to prepare again the feet and the legs for our eventual standing pose. Now when you're ready, pick that right leg up, take the hands onto the back side of the hamstring or around the shin and the knee, and let that right side leg hug and draw in. Now as you do this, maybe there's an opportunity to create a bit of space as you breathe in between your belly and thigh, and then as you breathe out, the belly and thigh get compressed together, and then again, a little breath in. Some space exists as you breathe out. There's this nice deep contraction. One more time, nice bit of space, in breath. As you exhale, draw that knee in. Let's keep it hugged in here. And as you do, set the shoulders so that they're onto the mat instead of rounded up and away from the floor. Mind the position of your neck, adjusting hair elastics if you need to make that possible. And then once you've set your spine, your shoulders, and your neck, let's go ahead and just concentrate on our right foot. So I want you to flex your foot as you breathe in. As you exhale, point those toes. So create some functional movement through your foot. Inhale, flex the foot. It might seem elementary. Exhale, point the toes. But this is really important stuff. You do this anyways all the time. Take a breath in, flex the foot. Every step you take, this is happening. Exhale, point. But you might not be aware of it. Inhale, flex the foot. And then again, exhale, point the foot. And then from here, let's go ahead and flex the foot. If you're holding the front side of the shin, just bring your hands around the back of the hamstring. And then move your thigh away from your abdomen as the arms straighten out. And eventually maybe this nice perpendicular line with your right thigh bone over your right hip. Okay, and then let's just do some knee hinging movements. On your inhalation, start to extend the leg towards the ceiling. Just get a sense for the resistance in the back of the leg. And then exhale, rebend the knee. Let's do that again. Inhale, lift and float the foot up. Little pressure through the heel, little spreading of the toes. Exhale, let that knee bend. One more time. Inhale, little lift, little extension. And then exhale, rebend the knee. And then again, let's go ahead and start to extend the leg. Now, start is a key word because if you straighten the leg and all of a sudden your upper body, neck, and shoulders get pulled out of whack, or maybe your leg starts to shake like a jackhammer, that's an intensity that's being demonstrated. So keep the knee bent, keep your spine focused in this nice aligned principle. Okay, back of the neck remains long. Little bit of pressure of the right hamstring into your hands. And then let's just go ahead and circle your right foot a couple of times. Okay, nice full breath in as it circles in one direction. And then maybe go back the opposite direction on your exhalation. Over time, you might find the leg can get straighter and straighter towards the ceiling as you just literally create some circles and investigate some kind of the functional movement that exists or perhaps doesn't exist, and then what you might be able to do to support that. All right, eventually return to a nice flexed foot with the heel pressed, the toes spread as if you're standing on the ceiling here. Take one more breath in. Let your breath come out. Good, then go ahead and rebend that knee. Change the hands once again, maybe to the front side of the knee shin, hug it in a bit deeper, and then go ahead and return a right foot down to the floor. Okay, let's go ahead and find the second side. Right foot lands, take the left thigh in and onto the body. Hands can lace around this shin or again, maybe around the hamstring if you wish. As you pull that left thigh in and onto the body, note again the position of the shoulders and the head. Really be cautious that we don't end with the chin jutted to the ceiling, a shortening across the upper back and neck, but just this nice alignment as we get into the glutes, the hamstring, a little bit of pressure across the abdomen here. Again, take a breath in, make a little bit of space between your thigh and your belly. As you exhale, hug and squeeze it in. Again, inhale, a little bit of space. Exhale, hug and squeeze it in. Again, inhale, bit of space. Exhale, hug and squeeze it in. Keep that left thigh squashed in onto the belly. Keep the upper back, shoulders, neck nice and easeful. And let's just come into this flexion and extension of the left foot. Okay, inhale, flex the foot. As you exhale, point those toes. Functional movements, all we're after. Inhale, flex the foot. Exhale, point the toes. Inhale, marry the movement of your foot with your in-breath. And then again, on the out-breath, point the toes, empty the lungs. One more time, flexed foot, inhale. Exhale, point toes, empty the belly. Good, then from here, release the hands. Take the hands behind the left hamstring and start to move your left thigh bone in a perpendicular line straight up over your left hip. Again, the arms will straighten out, but be cautious that they don't pull the shoulders or jut the chin towards the ceiling. Okay, with a little bit of pressure, left thigh into the hands, flex that left foot, and then again we'll find the knee movement. Inhale, start to work to extend the leg, honoring what you discover. Exhale, lower it down. Again, inhale, float the leg, stretch it towards the ceiling, gently, kindly. Exhale, rebend the knee. Again, inhale, extend the leg, pressing into the hands with that hamstring. Exhale, bend it down. And then one more time, extend and lift that leg towards the ceiling, and then exhale, let that leg come back down. Okay, when you're ready, inhale, work to extend the leg. Let's let it find its place. If it needs to remain somewhat bent, honor that. And then find some circular directions. Full breath in one direction, and then an exhale in the other direction. Again, inhale, circle it one way. And then exhale, circle it the other way. One more time, inhale, little circle. And exhale, the opposite direction. Okay, pause here, flexed foot, strong leg, breathe in, breathe out. One more, breathing through the nose. Exhale, hug the knee into the chest. Hands can change their placement once again around the shin. And then slowly return and land that left foot back down to the floor. Okay, one more time. Let's extend both legs long on the mat. Stretch both arms over your head. Just find this opportunity to stretch it out. And then exhale, rebend the knees, place the soles of the feet onto the floor and release the arms. Okay, here's where we need to find our little prop. I'm just going to keep mine simply folded. It doesn't have to be high. And of course, you're welcome to use a traditional block should you wish. With the firmed feet on the floor, you're going to lift and float the hips away from the ceiling, or away from the floor rather, to the ceiling, and then go ahead and settle and nestle your hips back down onto your prop, just so that you feel a slight bit of elevation here at the hips. We focused on the back of the legs, so now I want to see if we can focus on generating. I want you to go ahead
slide your right leg forward. As the right leg extends forward, you're welcome to flex, okay? Push the heel forward or down, or point the foot, but let's just pay attention to if the foot rolls sideways. For now, in our purposes of this practice, let's keep that leg nice and parallel so it's not rolled out, toes straight in line in the same direction of your hip and your knee. This is just a simple, beautiful stretch to create some space and generate some awareness as to how the hip flexor, so the front, this attachment point between your thigh, across the pelvis and your spine, kind of plays into opening up. This is a muscle that tends to get shortened, tight, or limited with its mobility because of extended sitting or standing periods. Not to mention all kinds of other influences that affect how our legs move, and of course, when that movement happens, what happens to the pelvis and the overall function of your spine. Okay, so linger here for just a couple more breaths. If this feels adequate, I invite you to stay. If you'd like to take it a little bit further, you're welcome to now pick that left foot up. Lace your hands as you did before, behind the hamstring, or perhaps around the shin. It doesn't matter where you clasp or hold the leg. What we're after is noticing any influence of moving the legs, how that might pull the upper portion of our spine. Remember to keep your right leg active in its position so that it doesn't end up flopped and rolled out and just kind of hitchhiking along in the pose, as I often like to say. And let yourself stay for a couple more breaths here as you just work to create some space in this a bit of oppositional movement, right? One leg is extending, the other is flexing, and in the space between, we maintain a steadiness of our breath practice. Take one more nice full breath in, and your breath out. And then go ahead and slowly return left foot to the floor if it had come off the mat. And then gently guide that right knee to bend and the sole of the foot back onto the floor. Pause for a minute and just take notice of the difference in the influence of that opening on the front side of our hips. Keeping the right leg now where it is. Take a breath in. And as you exhale, slide now the left leg forward. As the left leg comes forward, we invite that, again, alignment of either the toes pointed in line with the ankle, or you have heel forward and pressing down, ensuring that the toes don't roll to the side and influence the hip rotation also. Although those are of benefit for, again, our practice today, we're working at this kind of parallel alignment, keeping the heel, ankle, the knee and the hip all in the same direction. All right, again, you're welcome to just stay as you are here with the left leg extended, so the right foot remained on the floor. Or if it serves you to pick up that right leg, lace your hands behind the hamstring, or perhaps around the front side of the knee shin, then by all means do. This will deepen the stretch and release of this key muscle called the psoas. Across the front side of the pelvis. It's a major stabilizer for the pelvis. It's a core muscle. It's a leg mover. And of course, it plays and influences our balance and also our breathing practice. And so let's take a couple more breaths here, noticing how the breath comes in, when and how it moves out. And of course, whatever it is that you notice in the physical body, but also maybe the mental body, emotional body, and everything else in between. Okay, one more breath in here. And your breath out. And then as you're ready, slowly return. Let that right foot come all the way back down to the floor. And then let that left knee bend also, returning it to the floor. Once you've established both feet underneath you, lift off your prop. Go ahead and slide it out from underneath your hips, and then let your spine just settle and ease down. Pause here for a moment, just again to take into consideration the influence of those couple basic postures. And we don't have to do much. It's paying attention where we really need to devote some practice to note these subtleties and shifts that can take place. All right, when you're ready, let's affirm those feet so that the heels are parallel with your sit bones and hip bones, and the toes straight ahead. Let the knees line up straight in between what you've created for heel placement and hip placement. With the arms resting gently beside you, press into those feet and inhale, float your hips towards the ceiling. Now let's linger here in this just little elevation. Again, it doesn't have to be much. And let's really see if we can focus on not clenching the glutes, but rather establishing a strong foundation under our feet, and in turn point the knees towards the same direction as your toes. This is going to help to generate some hamstring strength and create this bit of spaciousness about both sides of your thighs and across that hip region, the psoas muscle. Now you're welcome to stay exactly as you are, just this again, subtle variation of what we call the half bridge or Setu Bandhasana. If you'd like to take this variation a little bit more, you're welcome to bend the elbows, press into those elbows, upper arm bones, and the back of the head until you can roll those shoulder blades onto the back. This gives a little bit more lift across the chest and in turn supports perhaps a bit more lift through the hips. Again, try to keep the glutes soft, establish a nice firm pressure in the feet, point your knees forward, and then start to lift your heart towards your chin, keeping that cervical spine, your neck, free from any pressure or weight. You're welcome to then return your hands back down to the mat and just let them rest. Maybe even hold the edges of your mat to give perhaps more rotation and opening across the chest, which then, of course, gives rise to more space across the front of the hips. And let's stay for one more nice full breath in through the nose and an out breath. And then as you're ready, release those arms, slowly melt the spine all the way back down to the floor. And then again, let yourself pause. A nice simple, even landing place. Hands can return to the belly. A nice full deep breath comes in. And then a nice even breath out. Noticing the effects and influence of just these simple, basic actions that are going to influence our capability, understanding, and practice of simply standing upright. All right, so let's find one more little reclined posture here to influence again the front of the hips, some stretch and release across the abdomen, as well as now get into the chest and shoulders a little bit. So I want you to go ahead and walk your feet so that they find the edges of your mat nice and comfortably. A little bit wider, obviously, than your hips. And then with those arms outstretched to the side, or of course you can cactus them if you're short on space, drop your legs towards the left so that you create just this little bit of rotation across the pelvis. So I just have to move that mic. Okay, so as you drop your knees to the left, this is going to give rise to some stretch and release in that right side hip flexor, a little bit of tilt here in the pelvis. And this is going to work to release across not just the quad, but through the side of your body. So the side waist, up into that side rib section, the lungs, and then potentially open across the chest based on your hand and arm placement. You're welcome to keep the chin straight up towards the ceiling, or should it feel appropriate to turn your chin towards the right, by all means do. Okay, as you linger here, ensure that what's happening in your right leg doesn't feel awkward, painful in any way, shape, or form on the knee or on the ankle. Okay, we want a nice, delicious little bit of stretch and release here, not something that's going to, of course, show up as our day goes on in pain and remembrance of how we forced ourselves in the pose. That's not yoga. All right, so again with those arms just again comfortably positioned, outstretched beside you or cactus, you can stay like that. Or maybe again we stretch the arms over the head. So as those arms stretch over your head, this is going to increase that line, especially on the right side, which in turn helps to open the chest and perhaps even stretch across those pectoral or side body muscles that influence our upper body's position as we ultimately work to stand. Sometimes what's nice here is the left hand holding the right wrist and giving a slight bit of assist to stretch out just a little bit more that right side body. And let's stay for one more nice full deep breath here. And your breath out. All right, go ahead and release the arms. Let them come back down beside you, a little closer to the body. And then return those knees back up towards the ceiling. Adjust your feet, letting them come once again parallel with one another. Maybe even encourage the right leg to stretch long so as to make space behind the knee joint and to establish a nice strong and long grounded right side. All right, as you're ready, rebend that right knee and then let the feet again walk about mat distance apart. Arms again passively outstretched beside you. We breathe in. As we exhale, we drop the knees now to the right, inviting that left thigh to spin in and down. Adjust your legs, of course, as you need to, so as to generate that left side body bit of space. Listen to the left ankle, the left knee. Make sure that as you create this bit of lift on the left side, that it doesn't push or force the low back into any compromised position or state. Always we remember to watch, to monitor as the breath comes into the body and then as the breath flows back out again. And create a nice softness about your face and facial expression so that there's no tight, rigid force and concentration lines around the eyes. Sometimes a little smile is all you need. And let yourself stay for one more breath, just nice and passive here, giving rise to the release through the left side of our hip, front side of the abdomen, and now through the waist. Stay here if this serves you, or again, perhaps those arms start to extend and reach over your head, lengthening a bit more that left side body. Again, you're welcome to stay in whatever variation serves you best today. Or maybe even hold that left wrist with the right hand and give rise to just a little assist. Sometimes you might even move to that right side a little bit here. Although not necessary, especially if that creates too much for the shoulder or the neck, or even down to the rest of your body into your lumbar curve or into that left leg. Stay for one more nice full deep breath in here, and then your breath out. All right, slowly return. Let those arms come back down beside you. And then again, those knees back up to the ceiling, letting the feet find their parallel lines with the hips. And then let that left leg extend. Press the heel forward or down or point the toe. Just really generate a nice established line with that left leg. All right, rebend that left knee, foot on the floor. And then as you're ready, drop your knees over to one side. And then find your way from your side up to your seat. And so as you rise to your seat, you're welcome to take that little folded blanket and position it so that it's a nice bit of support under your seat, which might help you to just pause for a few moments here as we work a couple of seated postures to support our legs opening. So from here, we'll take the soles of our feet together. And I want you to be cautious as you bring your feet together and kind of reef your heels back. Oftentimes what that'll do is it'll malposition the pelvis in that we're already tilted backwards. So what I often encourage my students to do is to just let the feet come together in their own natural way and then use the hands to adjust the distance between your hips and your heels. So bring your hips closer to your heels, keeping that nice straight up and down line of your waist with the floor. And then the hands can just simply land on the feet, on the knees, and we set our upper body so that it's as straight up and down as possible. Mindful that the chin doesn't jut and shoot its way forward, but that we're working to draw things back. Your eyes are soft, gazing at a point on the floor that is hopefully not too distracting, and roll those shoulders back. Ultimately, what we're trying to create here is a plumb line from the base of our spine to the top of our crown, so that we're not leaning forward, we're not slouched and curled back. What we found this kind of pivotal point in between where the hips, shoulders, ears start to line themselves up. And of course, this is no easy task if the hips are resistant, tight, or feeling stuck to just simply sit here. But over time, through practice and through dedicated awareness, concentration, we start to refine our abilities to do just this. All right, stay for one more nice full breath in, and then a nice full breath out.
All right, let's go ahead and catch hold of those knees, draw the knees towards the ceiling, and then just start to walk the feet forward slightly. Okay, again, continuing to perhaps sit here on this support blanket underneath you. Let's take the fingertips to the floor. Okay, as the fingertips come to the floor, again in line with our side seams of our shirt and our pants, okay, we promote this vertical ascension. Nice bit of toning across the belly to support the low back, and that retraction of the chin towards the throat so that ears, shoulders, and hips stay aligned. With your knees and feet parallel, straight out from your hips, go ahead and flex your feet. This is going to help us to find some hip core strength as well as assess those hamstrings. When you're ready, see if you can promote an extended right leg. Now, if you extend that right leg and it pulls your body into a rounded shape, establish that spine alignment, bending the knee, and then eventually work to extend the leg. Okay, it's not about doing the pose. It's about, what are you learning in your body? What are our habituated spaces and places of stuckness? And what can we use our yoga practice, in what ways? How can we use it to support improved function of all of the movements we create? All right, when you're ready, inhale, rebend the right knee, and then let's switch right away to the second side. Left leg works to extend. As the left leg extends, again, if you find and acknowledge that there's this shift through the rest of your body, then rebend the left knee, reestablish the alignment through your spine, and then take a slower approach at extending that left leg so as to be of maximum benefit to this spinal alignment you've created. Okay, stay for 2 more breaths wherever you are. Full breath in, full breath out. Last one, inhale, and then exhale. All right, go ahead, rebend that left knee, walk the feet in a little bit closer, drop the knees over to one side, and then go ahead and shift off of your blanket, moving it off to the side as we bring ourselves up onto our hands and our knees. So as you come up onto your hands and knees, let's position the knees just slightly behind the hips. Do some spinal alignment just to create, again, a little bit of freedom across the spine in its entirety. Inhale, sit bones up, belly drops, face might open. As you exhale, round. Take the chin towards the throat, navel up and in towards the spine. Do that again. Inhale, drop the belly, face lifts, open things up, and then exhale, round things out. One more time. Inhale, we call this cow pose. And then exhale, round into cat. All right, find your way through neutral, not arching, not rounding, and then adjust so that the knees go back a little bit more and that the body now comes forward in a nice bit of diagonal line. Mind the wrists. This is a bit intense on the wrists, so be cautious of that. But what we want to do is start to feel our core kick into gear. As those hip flexors open up and extend, like we've already practiced and done, we want to draw and invite that navel to draw up towards the spine to promote a maximum support for gravity's pull. Okay, as you do this, continue to keep the throat drawn back, the chin just slightly open maybe so that you're gazing straight out in front of you. All right, take one more breath here. Then as you exhale, ease yourself down and lower right down onto your belly. So as to give the wrists a little reprieve, I invite you to tense your fingers, although that's an option you might wish to avoid. With your next inhalation, just give yourself a little bit of lift into a baby cobra. And I don't want this to be huge and big. I want this to be an opportunity for you to learn and apply some of the support tools you've practiced already. So this means taking the navel up and away from the floor. This means keeping the back of the neck nice and long. This means affirming those legs into the floor. And then even rolling the shoulders back a little bit like we did when you were on your back in that half bridge variation. Ultimately, we should be able to lift our hands here and feel like we could sustain the pose with a bit of strength from our core and not stress on our low back. Establish those legs also as you reach down into the floor with those toes and then extend through to the crown. Take one more breath in
As you exhale, hands down by the ribs, forehead, nose can come back to the floor. And then when you're ready, press yourself up, come back to that tabletop. And then if possible, let's keep those thighs, knees parallel with one another, the toes tucked under. And then as you're ready, stretch your seat back towards your heels to give those soles of your feet a deep stretch and release. Maybe the hands slide forward a little bit. Maybe the forehead, nose descends down to the floor. Perhaps even as you settle in the pose, the wrists lift so as to give rise to release in that underarm and chest region. Mind the toes, mind the knees, and any heightened sensation that's inappropriate in your body. This isn't about Simon Says, or in this case, I guess Michelle says, but rather an opportunity to investigate and get honest about what you're experiencing, what feels right, what feels like just the right amount of challenge, and of course, what hurts. All right, one more breath here. Let your breath come out. All right, when you're ready, slowly rise, find your way back up to that tabletop position. Untuck those toes, roll those ankles a little bit, maybe even tap the tops of your feet on the floor. All right, so we've worked to prepare our body to bring ourselves to an upright standing pose, so let's go ahead and establish that now. So take your time as you do rise and come on up so you don't get too dizzy. Okay, and then let's work to set ourselves in this samastitihi, which means equal standing pose, or what's often called Tadasana, mountain pose. And of course, you do this day in and day out, but we pick up these little habits, or our body finds these kind of restricted places that pull ourselves out of alignment, and we end up sometimes in that computer pose. Okay, so through mountain pose, samastitihi, we want to have our feet so that they're relatively parallel, no different than what we've established and worked already. Perhaps those second toes are turned in just a little bit so that we're not in that rotation outward. Okay, you're welcome to bring the feet closer, but a nice, simple standing base, hip distance apart is ideal. Okay, and then from here, gazing down at your toes, I want you to go ahead and lift all of your toes. And then just pay attention to what points in the soles of your feet are touching. Big toe mound, baby toe mound, heel. Where's the weight? And can you spread it out? So if you had, let's say, 4 corners of your foot, we'll say the big toe mound, the baby toe mound, the inner heel, the outer heel. The weight is distributed evenly, and then also between both sides as best as possible. And then once you've established that, the toes are lifted and spread as we work to generate some foot strength, arch strength. Take your big toes down to the floor. As the big toes land, can you keep the other toes elevated? And then from here, what if you press the big toes down and then work to establish the baby toe as well, feeling how strong those legs are getting and the concentration and awareness you're building to. And then after the big toe, baby toes are down, can you spread out the remaining toes? Okay, so that you really feel this nice wide base upon which you're building your entire body. Okay, as we then work to understand what that feels like in a strong placed foot, note this same generation of activity, this awareness up through the legs. So oftentimes working with the toes, we feel the sides of the shins, the fronts of the shins a bit more than we did prior to. Okay, as that happens and we draw our awareness up, notice what takes place at the knees. A lot of times the knees, they land in a locked position. Okay, and what happens below happens above. So the upper body is going to compromise. Okay, so a locked knee might reflect a shortened upper back, upper neck. Okay, strain, we don't want that. So with an established foot, let that strength come up into the leg muscles so that your quads support a stable, non-locked knee joint. Okay, so the quads are active, they're in essence supporting the kneecap, drawing them slightly upward. And then let's go ahead and place our hands onto our hips. Like that bit of cat and cow, right? The pelvis can move backwards, and then of course the pelvis can tilt and tuck under. Somewhere in the space between that is our relative neutral spine. Of course, you'll see here that as I move the hips, and hopefully you are getting a sense for this in your own body too, the knees move, the upper body moves. So again, this is this kinetic chain. Everything's connected.
Okay, so with the feet established, the knees soft, the legs strong, we find and refine our pelvic neutral, where that side seam starts to build itself straight up and down. Okay, with a nice, strong, established foot, knees, and pelvis, we translate this into the rest of our body. So the waist, it's like we've planted the legs. This is our pot. This is our garden, our grounding our soil. And now we're, planting our bodies, the rest of our bodies. Okay, so the sides of our bodies, the spine starts to grow up and out of the foundation we've set. As we move into the shoulders, okay, mind that the shoulders don't wrap and turn forward. In fact, sometimes simply just taking the palms to a forward-facing position can have a drastic effect on the shoulder placement. Okay, so let it be easeful. Let's not stress and strain it out, but learn to refine our body's ability to stand upright. Okay, and then this last piece that we're looking to establish here in this Samastitihi or Tadasana pose is the upper body, the neck, the head. Okay, classically, so many habits of staring into screens, or even zoning out while driving in your car. The chin juts forward. So let's take that chin in towards the throat as if you could, pull up and back on those occipital lobes right at the base of your skull. And then from here we now have this grounded foundation, this vertical ascension, and of course that oppositional line from crown to feet stacked nice and tall. In essence, what starts to take place here is we align our bones as best as possible so that those muscles don't have to stress and strain to keep us upright. And then all we do here is we just pause. Again, this might seem so elementary, maybe even rather boring, but you stand. But we stand flopped and sideways and waiting, like at the grocery store. But if we could find ourselves standing at the grocery store, aligned, tall, steady, purposefully placed, we can help ease so many discomforts that exist because of a misalignment, even while standing. And then as you do stand, can you find your breath? If it feels comfortable for you to close your eyes, close your eyes. And note the way in which the breath travels into the body. Because of this upright standing posture, sometimes it's a bit of a challenge to keep that abdomen soft enough so that it can both receive and then, of course, work to contract appropriately. Right? If it's constantly tight, well, then it's going to be exhausted and not know how to kind of support the out-breath, or perhaps even not know how to relax to let the breath come in. Okay, so as you practice standing upright, practice breathing too. Okay, so we breathe in through the nose. We feel this expansiveness about it. And we breathe out. And we literally just find ourselves affirmed, standing in time and space, aware of our body, our breath, and all that is around us. This posture is a posture of presence. And the beauty is that you can take this posture and use it, practice it, do it everywhere. Nobody will know. And this is the beauty of yoga, is as much as we do here on this 2x6 foot piece of rubber, yoga is a means to help you move through your life as effectively, as freely as possible. Go ahead and let yourself enjoy one more breath here. And your breath out. Slowly let your hands come together in front of your heart. And perhaps even let your head bow down to your hands. A simple gesture of gratitude, a gesture of grace, a gesture of thankfulness, all of which I share with you. Om Shanti, 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 Om peace, peace, peace. Thank you for showing up and for practicing yoga today. Namaste.